All right. Yeah, and good evening, everyone, and welcome to the May meeting of ANC3C's Planning, Zoning, Housing, and Economic Development Committee. We have a couple of applications to review this evening, as well as one informational presentation that I'm adding to the agenda at the request of Tammy as well. And we're going to flip the order of the existing two BZA applications. So 2400 Tilden Street Northwest will be going first, followed by 2850 27th Street Northwest. And then we will have a presentation on 3500 Connecticut Avenue. Is everyone cool with that?
Works for me.
All right. Excellent. So, Marty, who's going to be sharing from 2400 Tilden Street?
Yeah, hi, Jeremy.
Okay, great.
Marty, you want me to share screen?
Let me make Jeremy a co-host so you can share the screen. Or Marty, did you want to share the screen? Marty, we can't hear you. You're on mute.
Sorry, hit the wrong button. I can share if Jeremy can't. I don't know if, is there, oh, here we go. No,
Yeah.
Jeremy can do it.
Great. You can see the screen, so you can go ahead and get started.
And I can introduce the request. Jeremy, if you can just go through the plans, you can just pull up the plans. I'll summarize the relief being requested. This is 2400 Tilden Street. First of all, my name is Marty Sullivan. I'm zoning counsel for the property owner, and Jeremy is the project architect. There's so we're asking for a special exception from the BZA. There's 4 areas of relief. The first is for the building area for the accessory building. So there's an existing accessory building, and that building is being replaced with a new accessory building. There's a limit on the building area or the footprint of the accessory building itself. It's limited to the greater of 450 square feet or 30% of the required rear yard. That number adds up to 535 square feet, and we're asking for a footprint of 864 square feet. The second area of relief is total lot occupancy for the lot. The max lot occupancy is 30%. You can get up to 50% by special exception, and we're asking for 36%, 36.2%. The next area of relief is there's a relatively new requirement that applies to accessory buildings, saying they cannot be located within a required rear yard. It ends up effectively being a spacing requirement between a principal building and an accessory building of the rear yard setback amount, which is 25 feet in this zone. And we have 14 feet between the two buildings. That's a special exception as well. And the last one's kind of odd. In the parking regulations, there's a requirement that says if you have a parking space within a building, the opening to that parking space has to be at least 10 feet high. So I don't think this is anything that gets enforced. So we never ask for relief from this provision unless we're asking for relief for other stuff, because I've never seen or heard of a residential door opening being 10 feet high anyway. And I can never get the Office of Planning to explain why this provision exists, but we're asking, that's a special exception as well. So we're asking for relief from that. So there's four things: the building area for the accessory building, the total lot occupancy, the spacing between the two buildings, and then the height of the garage, which is less than 10 feet. For some reason, there's a regulation that says it has a minimum height of 10 feet, and this is obviously less than that. That's it, and I'll turn it over to Jeremy.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, so as a larger overview, This is Tilden Street, crossing Rock Creek. This is the Pierce Mill, and the Pierce Barn, and the Pierce Spring House is here. This is the Pierce Still House, built originally as a distillery. It was converted to a house in 1924 and 1925. It was renovated in 2009, and the current owner, who bought it about 2 years ago, is actually trying to make it more historic looking, pulling out a lot of the 2009 things, replacing some of the newer windows with windows to look older. And in doing all that, there was no place in here for kind of, well, it's nice to have a second car, but also he wanted a home gym. He's into fitness and working out. So we decided it was best to, since this garage is not a historic building anyway, to tear that down and replace it with a larger structure that could house those functions. And as you can see, this poor original building, you know, on this lot has been like relegated to this little corner here with this Hungarian embassy here, and this piece of property, which seems to be owned by China.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
Are you looking at a plan map? Because we're looking at elevations and it sounds like you're like.
Oh, is this my, let me try resharing my screen. Thank you for letting me know. Let me try this again. Here you go. Is that better?
Yes.
Okay, sorry about that. Okay, so starting over again, here's Tilden Street, crossing Rock Creek, and here's the Pierce Mill and the Pierce Barn, and the Pierce Spring House is here in the median of Tilden, all coming down the hill to the creek there. Here's our property, the house, which was built originally as a distillery for the Pierce estate, which apparently was mostly an orchard. They did hard cider here, converted into a house. Some of these pieces added on to the back after 1925. This is the existing one-car garage we would like to replace with a larger two-car garage. It gets the second car and also gets some additional functions such as the home gym, which we can put above there because there was no place for that in the house. The Hungarian embassy is here next door, and this property, which the land records seem to be, it's something owned by China. They have this large estate, so we're kind of far from them. And I was able to go talk to a gentleman at the Hungarian embassy. I did provide drawings. He disappeared behind closed doors, came back, said that they didn't expect that they would be contesting this, but that I shouldn't expect necessarily to get a letter of support or anything because they just have a lot of other things to do. But we did send them the info. If we get anything from them, you know, I'll let Marty know. So now you should be seeing the elevations drawing.
Yeah.
Okay, so working with the,
We don't see the elevations. We're back.
sorry, let me re-share it. I'm still learning these things. Let's see, try this share.
Well,
Okay.
once you learn them, they'll change them anyways.
Right. Okay, hopefully now you see the page.
Could I interrupt with a question?
Yes, absolutely.
Does any neighbor have any problem with this? I mean, it's a special exception. It's not, as I gather it, it's not a variance. So, you know, it's really, I suspect, only a problem if anybody is complaining about it. And I'm asking, is anybody complaining about it?
Not that I know of. I have not received a complaint from anyone. I've talked to the contractor. Has anyone come by and because we're already doing work on the main house under permits for that. And so far, no.
I mean,
We do have this
Because-
letter.
this is not a HP issue as far as I know, so the beauty of it kind of doesn't matter in a sense.
Got it.
So if nobody you're nearby has any problem with it, you know, and if nobody on the commission or the committee has heard any complaints, it would seem to be easy to say we don't have any problem with it.
Okay.
Yes, but they're still going to be asked if they came to the ANC. So we.
Oh yeah, no, of course, and they have.
So we still need to be informed as to
Yes,
what's going on.
we always ought to be informed. It's better than not being informed.
Okay. Carry on, please. Thank
We
you.
received this one letter of support from the Friends of Pierce Mill, which is sort of a neighbor, you know, the mill across the street from us. And the Pierce Still House, which is the subject property, is part of the original campus. So they've reviewed and they are supportive of our project. But I have not received a complaint.
And
Great.
also, I want to point out that we took some extra steps to make sure the only two abutting neighbors are informed, because since they're embassy-related entities, we figured they wouldn't be paying attention to a form letter coming from the BZA. So we sent additional notice to both of them.
And did you hear anything from the Chinese government, which owns the one property?
I don't think we've heard anything from the China property yet, right,
Not
Jeremy?
yet. We sent it certified mail to the address. But I don't believe we've even gotten a delivery receipt back yet. So there might be on, you know, how they'll make a few attempts, and then if nobody goes to the post office to pick it up, it'll eventually get returned to me.
And what are the requisite side or rear setbacks for the garage or outbuilding, and are those at issue here?
So there's no setbacks for the accessory building from the rear property line. Like, there's not a rear yard or side yard requirement specifically for an accessory building. It could be, in fact, we become more compliant if we go further back. The requirement is just that it not be in the required rear yard, which is measured from the house back. So it's the first 25 feet back for the whole width of the property. I think this is a provision that doesn't belong in the single family detached zones. It was created initially for row house districts to make sure there was an opening down a lane of row houses, and that people didn't push their accessory buildings into the property and provide parking behind that so that they could get more floor area out of their accessory buildings. I think they're actually going to get rid of this. OP claims they're getting rid of this regulation, but it's going to take a couple years. So we've been doing a lot of these. Unfortunately, almost every single family detached house that does a rear addition or an accessory building addition ends up offending this particular provision, it seems.
Okay, thank you.
Interesting. All right, does anyone else have questions, comments, or concerns? Did you guys want to show us anything else in your presentation?
I don't think we
The
have
simplest
anything else.
thing, this was what I provided. The Hungarian embassy asked for a single page to describe. So we put this together, which has these are the elevations from Tilden Street. So that's why some of that's shown as sort of hidden, because it's down. So we sort of dug it down into the hill as far as we could. And then these are existing street views. So
Okay.
that would be everything.
All right. Any questions from commissioners or committee members? All right, and this is in Rurik's SMD, correct?
I think so.
Yes.
Cool. All right, so we will get together and put together a resolution or a letter to take up at our May 20th meeting. Does that work for your guys' timeline?
Yeah, that's great. Our hearing's not till June. Late June, I think,
I think
actually.
it's like 16 or something.
It is June 26th. So yeah, that's
So May
Yeah,
20th?
26.
yeah.
Okay. Awesome.
Thank you.
Well, thank you all for your time. Appreciate it. And enjoy the rest of your evening, except for you, Marty, who has to go to another ANC meeting.
Which I'll enjoy as well.
Good.
Thank you.
all.
Appreciate it. Thank
Bye.
you.
Good night.
All righty.
They need a sidewalk.
We can potentially include that in the letter, Bob. All right, up next is a BZA, and also there's an HPRB application attached to this too at 2850 27th Street to construct a 2-story side addition and convert a principal dwelling unit, an existing semi-detached 3-story apartment house in the RA2 zone, which is in Gowans SMD. Who will be presenting? And also, do you want to give the introduction to this? Or allow the applicant?
Do you want, sorry, you mean me?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I don't need to give an introduction. It's in my SMD. It was a guest house. Kind of sad to see it go, but very happy to have a family moving in. Looks like a cool renovation. I think we'll have the Joby. You're the architect, right? I think we'll have Joby make a presentation, unless you want to, unless you have some other idea. And if you could make me a co-host, I think I have some images that I'm going to try to share on behalf of Joby.
Yeah, and I can try to share to see if it works. I just know, like, historically, every time I try to do share screen, it's never worked. But I can try if we want first.
Janelle, you want to? Can you give her the
Yeah,
right?
made you both co-hosts.
Okay,
No.
Joby, why don't you give it a try? And if you can't do it, then I'll try to pull them up. And then make sure to introduce yourself and talk about the project. Thanks.
Yes. Thank you. So yes, it does not appear like it will let me share. So my name is Joby Jones. I'm the architect on this project for Tracy and Karen Wang. And yeah, so that won't let me share. So if you want to pull up the photo exhibits. So this property, as Gawain had mentioned, was a 12-bed, 12-bath guest house for a number of years. It has sat vacant for a number of years. And now a family has come along and they would like to turn this into a multi-generational household for them and their parents. So yeah, so this, I'm sure everybody's familiar with this property because it has a very strong corner presence at Cathedral and 27th Street. You can go down. This is just showing the location.
Just confirming you can see this, right?
I can.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay, good.
thank you.
Thank you so much.
That I think you need the other document that has the proposal in it. This is just the photographs.
Yeah, I was gonna walk
Okay,
through the
just-
photos first and then the plans and elevation.
Okay,
If that works. Yeah, just for context.
okay.
Okay, so this is just a, satellite view of the site. So this is the front view from 27th Street. And so that top photo, if you go back down, that front, yeah, so I feel like this photo at the top best shows the condition that we are currently having to work around as our belief, although we have like no evidence of this, that it was originally a semi-detached home with a fully detached garage. And then someone did an infill addition between the two, which is that, bay with the wonky roof. There's an additional bump out behind that, and then a porch on top of that. So these are some of the challenges we are working around with this project. And you can also see that they took it from the garage, they turned that into interior space as well, which we hope to turn back into a garage. Go down. This is the view from the alley showing those other two additions on that south side, one on the main floor and then one on the second floor. And then the other is the view from Cathedral, which shows that it does have a party wall from on the main structure. And go down. Again, this is for the neighboring property. And then on the other side on 27th Street, there is no neighboring property because it's separated by an alley. And then that's just another view of the alley. And this area in general has a really strong mix of multifamily buildings and single-family row homes. So this is the building directly across the street from us. And that's just another view at the bottom showing the apartment or condo building across the street from us. And then also showing Cathedral Mansions, which is on the opposite side of Cathedral from us. And yeah, this was just that same image, just depicting what our intentions are for the addition, for our proposal, which would be to use materials and construction methods that would create a more harmonious massing and exterior. Like we would continue the mansard roof, we would continue the slate shingled roof, we would continue with masonry. So that's what this was calling out. So one of the things, this is a good photo to use for. So one of the biggest challenges that we're having, so the relief we're seeking is FAR. It's already non-compliant as it stands. But that addition with the bay addition between the garage and the house, for whatever reason, they decided to use a concrete slab as that first floor framing. I don't know why, because all the other floors obviously are framed in wood. And it's creating this really bizarre situation where, you know, there's no central air in this house. So getting, as you can see from the window units. So one, to work around what is a lot of concrete between the two structures and goes into the main floor. To get ductwork, to get utilities, there's probably about 12 electric panels in this house right now. Bringing all the plumbing and electrical up to code, working around this concrete deck is just going to prove impossible. It also is creating flooding and leaking on the main floor because it's the way they did these two additions. It's creating this bizarre corner condition that floods and doesn't drain, and then it backs up into the main house. So we're wanting to obviously get rid of that concrete deck, replace it with wood framing, reframe the entire roof of the garage, because they also did these weird bump ups. So we have different ceiling planes, which is also contributing to drainage issues. Do a new continuous membrane on the roof, and then align the exterior walls. Right now, there's about a 3-foot difference, which is also, and it's different, again, different construction methods, different materials, different levels. It's all a hodgepodge. So we're just wanting to align things vertically and horizontally to address a lot of these weak points that are happening right now. Same thing with the porch that's shown there. It leaks. It's in pretty poor condition. And there is an exterior door out to it. So again, I don't know when these additions were done. I can't quite find anything on it. But it's creating some very porous conditions on this side of the house. So this is ultimately what we're addressing in our proposals to, create a seamless continuous addition on this house. And then I think from here we can go to the floor plans, the plans and elevations.
It'll be a quick question while.
Excuse me,
hold
John,
up.
John,
Yeah,
John, you hold the questions to the end.
okay, sure.
Yeah, I think for our purposes, it might, I don't know how much you guys care about the interior floor plans. It might be best just to go to the elevations. I feel like that's what matters.
Yeah, that would be
Yeah,
great. We're
yeah,
not here to critique.
yeah.
I don't like when people do that. You don't
Yeah.
need to justify your mudroom. So
Yeah. So I got it. Everybody has thoughts. So the first elevation, so this is the existing front elevation. So you can see the screen, that porch on the left and the bay addition. And then if you go down to the next page, so this is our proposed addition. And this was the original submission. And, you know, because we're proposing 2 roof decks, the railing that is shown in these images came out of a conversation I'd had with historic, you know, but they want us to go in a specific direction. Now, actually, they don't want us to have the roof deck at all on the second floor. But just, you know, wanted to put out there that like those 2 elements are changing. But so you'll see that on the left side, you know, we are bringing it up all the way to the 3rd floor. So even though we didn't have a structural or construction condition that we were responding to on the 3rd floor, you know, we did want it for the interior space. And you know, even in these conversations through BZA with, you know, OP, you know, even trying to imagine, you know, they seem on board with, you know, easily the 1st and 2nd floor, and we're just working through the 3rd floor now. And honestly, working through this 3rd floor, because it's historic and it has such a strong corner presence, I feel like what we're ultimately responding to is the existing condition and its historic designation, because conventionally Victorian buildings with mansard roofs don't have different levels. You know, it has one continuous mansard band. And I'm having a hard time, you know, imagining if we were to stop it where that pergola is that we're taking out, you know, right above that bay. If anything, I think it's just going to compromise the architectural integrity of what we're trying to do for this building, and you know, for this massing. But so this is ultimately the massing we are trying to achieve and that we're trying to get approval for. You know, obviously the railings and the decks are moving parts and pieces, but ultimately this is the massing that we're trying to get. And then if you go down to the next page, these are the 2 existing side elevations. Obviously the one on the left is the most important one, so that's the one we're touching. So you can see where it has the porch up on the 2nd level. You know, it has that bay that comes over and ducks back, and then you have a window and a door on that main level. The ground level is the garage. So if you go down to the next page, this shows, you know, how we're just trying to make one continuous massing. So one continuous wall of brick construction with a mansard roof that ties in seamlessly with the addition that's already there. Again, just, you know, and in a large effort to avoid all those weak points that we're dealing with now, that's causing, you know, the water issues, and then as well as the infrastructure issues for utilities and ductwork. But then also, again, just trying to be mindful of this property we're dealing with, because again, it's not small, it's not quiet. It has a lot of presence, you know, so we're trying to do right by it, you know, with what we're proposing.
Okay, thanks. Janelle, do you want to take over?
Yes. Well, did you have any questions or concerns first, since it's your SMD?
Thanks for the deference, but no,
Neighbors.
I'm happy to I'm cool. I'm glad to see this property getting renovated and brought back into the community. So so I often, like, I'm not a historic preservation expert, so it looks good to me. But I'm open to hear other people say other things.
And have you guys been hearing, did you reach out to the direct neighbors, especially the one in the abutting alley way? Because this seems like the windows are going to be facing their property the most.
No, oh wait, across the alley?
Yeah, across.
Yeah, they had no comments on the windows. They only, wanted to discuss, construction noise and dust and,
Okay.
stuff like that. But
So they're-
no, they didn't have any concerns or comments about the design, really. It was more about the process of construction.
And that's fair.
Yeah, I mean, that's everybody, yeah.
Yeah, that's good to know. Because that's one of the things we definitely, I mean, the property is so in its existing state wonky and like disjointed, in my opinion, that like, and you don't know when these things are added and built onto it. So I think cleaning it up with the plans that you have now is favorable in my opinion, and living, right adjacent to it myself. So well done with a very wonky thing. So Bob, your hand went up first.
Thanks. And I apologize if I missed this ahead of time and I feel silly. This is not an HPRB application, is it? This is a BZA application?
It's both.
Both.
Oh, it's both. Okay. What's the relief you're seeking?
The FAR, because it's non-conforming as it is. So, yeah.
And
The FAR,
but
that is allowed.
John, please.
I'm just giving the facts. If you want to know the facts, if you don't care about the facts, that's fine. Okay.
just out of curiosity, like what's the FAR supposed to be? What is it now and what is it going to be?
Supposed to be 1.8. It's currently 1.9 and it'll be 1.98, I believe.
Okay, thanks.
Mhm.
John, you can go now.
Thank you. As Joby knows, I think this is a great project. I lived on that, that street for 14 years, and that building always looked like it needed help. And Brockett had, HPO has a problem with the deck over the bay. Is that which I don't understand, because the bay is not part of the original building to begin with, as far as I understand it. Is she still holding on to that as a problem, or has she with that?
I'm not sure. So after the hearing last week, I had sent a comprehensive list of inquiries and updates and some updated elevations, and had asked for a meeting, but I haven't heard back yet. So I'm not sure. And that was one of the things we were asking if, so you know how like on the roof deck, they're asking for a brick parapet. We asked if we could get, we would still love consideration for the second floor roof deck. Would they be more amenable if we did a brick parapet there? So we're just trying to, which would also help with that really terrible roof line that's happening on that bay. But I don't know. I haven't heard back yet.
And had a bunch of quibbles, or small fine tuning, let's call them that. Are there any of them? Well, I assume you have a problem with her saying that you ought to keep interior finishes, which is crazy to begin with, but and the landscaping. But are there any other issues that she raised that are big deals for you?
I would, yeah, I mean, the landscaping one is one that we just can't really wrap our heads around, especially since everyone considers the retaining walls and everything to be original.
Yeah.
So I'm I'm still having, that was one of my biggest inquiries is what does that mean? I also inquired as to what does it mean for us to retain the majority of the interior structure? Like, I didn't know what that meant.
That's not in their scope. That's not,
Yeah,
that's not
But
allowed.
it's,
So,
but it's in HPO's report, so
yeah, and we'll take that up at the ANC level because that's not allowed. And
that's,
that
that's
also
fine. I'm
needs
just trying to
to
figure out
kind of
what
council members.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to figure out what the client and the architect, you know.
yeah. So, and the other thing I would like to talk to her about, because you know how they want us to step down the addition to delineate it from original and new. I kind of want to push back on that again, just because conventionally speaking, like mansard roofs don't do that. And I feel like it's gonna create a busyness or like a, I don't know, I feel like it's gonna look like a swing and a miss, like we forgot something or.
And you're gonna have drainage problems again.
I
Because
know, every
have-
time you step or miss the line, yeah, I know, it's a.
water and gravity are a simple
Yeah.
concept that apparently some others aren't quite grasping. Okay. Cool.
Thank you.
Thank you. Swale.
Yeah, I just want to say I am also in support of the project, and I don't agree with the HPO staff report either. So, Commissioner Kripke, however you want to write this, I will be in support.
Great. Anyone have anything else?
I have a question in your discussion with the staff on the mansard roof on the rear. I mean, is there any thought or justification that you're really just completing what was an unfinished original design? I mean, you know, the house was built in such a way that normally the roof would have been completed all the way around, and I get that it faces an alley, but it's not as if there were abutting structures directly behind it.
Yeah, I know because when you see that change in plane on that side, I mean, yeah, I agree. I do think what we're proposing will make it look more complete, and I really wish we did have some older images of the property to see its, how was it originally built and when the add-ons came. But but I do feel strongly that like what we're doing will help make this house whole, and make it look like one thought.
Yeah, although, if they want to delineate the new from the old, there are obviously other ways that they can do that very subtly.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, so I'll see, I'll see what, yeah, I don't know, it seems it's a little, I guess inconsistent, in some ways we're being asked to not do things that aren't historically done on things that aren't historic, but to not, act historically, like, I don't know, like in terms of balance, we're being asked to strike. I mean, we're trying. I think we'll
When
get
it's left up to individuals in terms of the roles, it becomes a little bit more challenging.
Yeah,
Okay. Well, thank you for your time this evening. And again, this is something we'll take up at our meeting on May 20th. And I'm sure we'll be in touch in the interim to finalize the letter of resolution on it.
Okay, and yeah, and our BZA hearing is on May 22nd, so.
Perfect.
Yeah.
All right. All right, and now for our final presentation, and this is does not, to my knowledge, have an application for HPRB or BZA or anything else at this time. This is in Tammy Gordon's SMD. She had to jump off the call, but asked me to introduce it. So this is 3500 Connecticut. Chris Martin and Megan Downey, sorry if I pronounced your names wrong, are going to present. They met with her a bit ago as they neared this process. Tammy says she thinks it's a great opportunity to bring in more housing along Cleveland Park Main Street corridor, and looking forward to learning more. So who will be sharing deck.
So
Well-
Megan will be sharing the deck, and I just thought I could give a very brief introduction, if that's okay.
And welcome and thank you.
Great, thank you for having us. So I'm Chris Martin. This is Megan, architect. I know we know many of you, but not everybody. I live on Lowell Street, right up the street, and Megan actually lives a block away from me on Macomb. So it's pretty exciting that we can actually work together on a project in our neighborhood. And we approached Commissioner Gordon a few months ago to be able to talk about some of the ideas we had about ways to add housing to the neighborhood on the rear parking lot behind the medium rare building in Cleveland Park, right above the metro station. And what we will be presenting to you is our ideas based off of some of that feedback, which is limited to 2 by right potential outcomes. But the twist to it, which is why we wanted to be able to socialize this and get your feedback, is in order to be able to activate this site for housing, we would need to close 2 of the 4 alleys that are effectively not being used. And we have already met with OP to socialize that idea with them as well. And it seems like there could be some support, but I don't want to get ahead of ourselves, and I'd like to be able to turn it over to Megan to walk through the studies that we've done and how we're thinking about that. So thank you very much for having us tonight, and happy to answer any questions once Megan goes through the deck.
Great.
Hello, I'm Megan. Yes, so I'm going to walk you through our kind of our presentation right now. So as Chris mentioned, this is a site. I'm sure you guys are all familiar with it. It's right on Connecticut Avenue. Here's Ordway coming down the hill. So this is the block 3500 Connecticut, and behind it actually is a rather large alley lot that just sits vacant. It's partially used for parking and partially used for a lot of for trash right now, and as we'll see, kind of walk through it. So here's the site. This is looking up Connecticut. Here you see medium rare right here. Here's the target over here. So one thing to note is this is this site actually sits atop the metro. So the metro entrance is here and over here. So even more reason why we felt very strongly about trying to add family size housing to this site. It's it's so close to the metro, and I think that's something else OP also has noticed and supports. So again, here's you can see the entrance to the metro for the site. And then this is just looking across the street at the Target and and the other shops. It's the Sam shops across. So here we go. So here's actually coming down. We're on Ordway Street, and we're looking through one of the first alleys into the site. So this is on the lower, which would be the eastern side of the alley lot. So you're looking down. On one side is the back of that Connecticut Avenue building, and on the other side there's a house here, and then we're looking directly into an apart, or I don't know if it's apartments or condo building right there. And then in the next site, and you can kind of see above here, so we've actually entered the site, and so we're kind of on the southwest corner of the site, kind of looking towards Connecticut, and you see the large alley site that sits now with parking, and then with the trash. And here's coming around again. Directly to the left side is the apartment building, and then this side is the back of the 3500 Connecticut, and then here is that large alley lot. There's more pictures. Okay, and so here's the kind of survey, and so some of the kind of things I really want to point out from this, which will make more sense as we move through the presentation, is that, as you probably know, if you've ever driven down Ordway, there's a rather large hill. So there's actually a very large grade drop from the top of what we consider the site. So this alley here, and then the bottom here, which is very important when we talk about zoning and about how high this building can be, which is actually not that high, because we have to measure our height from this bottom point, which is 10 feet lower than where the grade actually starts. So that's just something, as we discussed, we keep in mind. The other thing to know is the really meat of the issue here is about the alleys. So as you can see from looking at this, there's a bit of redundancy in alleys. So right now there's an alley that heads this way going across, And there's also an alley that heads right directly behind 3500 Connecticut. And then there's an alley that basically completely surrounds these alley lot. So as we move along to what we're trying to do, this is basically what what we've discussed with DC about what we think to do in order to make this site feasible in order to build upon. So it'd basically be to close this alley from kind of shaded in the yellow. So you're closing it from here to here and here to here. So you're still able to access 3500 Connecticut. You're still able to access the homes. And then anyone kind of coming behind all these commercial buildings back here is coming down this alley. So we're not preventing any access from anything. We're just taking apart some of the redundancy of the alleys and then allowing it to actually be converted to residential. So kind of, as Chris said, what we're doing is we're proposing a building that's completely by right. So we're not asking for any zoning things. So this is all about talking with the city and DDOT, and which is why we kind of meet here to discuss this with you. But we're in the NMU4 CP zone. So again, we're kind of looking at two different options as we're study and talk about the site and meet with OP. Two options. One would be the non-IZ option, and then one would be the option two is the option with IZ. So, but in both options, an interesting thing to note is that we are setting back from the alley. So on this side, we have 10.5 feet in option A, and we have about, I think it's 6 feet on this side. So again, we're pushing in this building. Per zoning, we're providing bike parking. We'll kind of move along. And then also, again, the key thing to note is that, again, we have to measure our building height measuring point is down on Connecticut Street, which is 10 feet lower than the lowest corner from our site. Okay, so we're getting 40 feet from Connecticut Avenue up to the top of our building in our option one option. So moving along in option one, so in both options, you'll see that we're looking at providing underground parking, which we provide trash for residents, and we'd also provide long-term bike storage. And then in this option one, we're looking at doing eight units. And again, we're trying to focus on more family size, so 2 to 3 bedroom units. So kind of seen here. And some of the layouts, which you can see as we fit in, 2 to 3 bedrooms, which was our focus. I'm just kind of rushing quickly just so we can, get to the discussion. And then here's looking at some 3Ds. So you'll see one that's kind of looking down on the site. So here's the building mass that we're proposing. And then here's one looking from Ordway to the building. And then one looking from the other side of Connecticut Street to across basically what you'd see behind 3500 Connecticut Avenue. So again, you can see, so these two kind of blobs are basically the size of the adjacent homes next to it. So you can see we're not that much taller than the homes. And also we're on this hill. So the grade is just getting large, getting higher and higher. So that's option one. Option two is very similar. It's just, we use the IZ bonus here, and we're able to provide one more unit. And that's only because we're able to build 5 feet higher. So we were able to on the first floor, which I'll move to quickly, there's less area taken up for our ramp, so we're able to get in one extra unit. So that's kind of the basic differences between the two options. So option one, we have 8 units. Option two, we have 9 units. Again, in option two, we have the bike parking, we have the underground parking garage, and then we have the units above. So
Great. It looks like we have some anxious people wanting to start.
Yeah, so I'm just kind of moving along, and we can come back to anything. Again, and then here's the kind of the 3Ds from the same thing, the aerial looking from Ordway, and then what you'd see from across the street. Again, this is all by right. It's really about the alley closure. And then there's some early thoughts about what the building might look like. So one, you know, we had some thoughts of like, you know, could we use this with like, would this work with the mass timber project, you know, CLT, and, you know, maybe we'd be able to express the wood on the outside. We're not there in that stage yet, but just some, as we're thinking about this project, there's just some thoughts. And then the other thought is to actually use brick, which I know is a very common, you know, building material. And I know HPO generally likes brick, using that back side, but doing very kind of simple facades, and then maybe also doing at the lower levels a different materiality so that the building doesn't look as high. So typically when you do, you know, the first floor is different materiality and the upper floors are brick, it just makes the building look a little bit smaller.
Great.
So that's basically all I have. So.
Oh, thank you. And if you go back to the aerial diagrams of it, I just want to make a point of like that one on the left that you have, that's the bird's eye view. Really minimize those, because that's what, like, nobody's ever going to see the building from that perspective. Like the other two perspectives, when you're looking from the street view, from the human view, that's what people are going to see. And you can barely see this massing from the street. So I just want to emphasize, like,
yeah, well, we're happy to switch the views around. Typically it's easier for people to see that we're trying to show the totality of the building, but yes, I completely
I get it, but it makes it
point.
Yeah.
Just wait until we put the trees in.
Since this slide is up, I was wondering if I could ask a couple of
But
questions.
Bob had his hand up first.
Oh, sure. Okay.
I make that comment as we went into questions. So Bob, and then Swale, and then John Goodman, and then you, Rick.
This is great. Thank you. I guess my question is, in your conversations with OP, did they happen to mention that they're about to rezone this area, like this year? We went through the planning process, and the recommendation from the development guidelines is that this would be 75-foot, you know, plus penthouse zone. So just curious if that came up in your conversations.
It did. And it's interesting. There's a degree of discussion about harmony and less OP, but more the HPO side of it and how this building could interface with the historic structures in front. And so the discussion with OP was trying to target the massing towards the neighbor to the north, because we are effectively a single lot if we do this, similar to the neighbor to the north and then the fire station north of that, as opposed to the much more significant height. But Megan, do you have anything to add to that?
Not really. I mean, they mentioned that it was, I think they mentioned it, but they didn't really get back to us with, you know, height massing parameters at the moment. So
Seemed like a missed opportunity if the whole process was to provide more housing on this area, that you'd forego an additional 35 feet.
again, I completely understand this scenario right now is to we have to move forward with the alley closing first. So, you know, we're not quite at the building perspective. So we have to study with our current zoning parameters, because as of our understanding, we don't know the exact date or when they're going to come out.
Thanks.
Cool. Swale?
First, Chris, Megan, thank you for coming. Thanks for coming to our meeting, and thank you for presenting this. I know this is not in my SMD, but I probably live closest to here than anyone else on the call. I can probably see this. And you're absolutely right. That parking lot in that trash alley is just disgusting. Like it's a really bad use of space. So I am so excited that you're doing this. You know, and again, like I haven't talked to Commissioner Gordon. This is her SMD, but I would definitely support this. And I just want to echo what Bob said. Like, I feel like this is such a good opportunity to add a lot more housing. And if there's anything that at least the ANC can do to get that support if you need it, I know that you're sort of juggling like what OP is doing and not doing. But yeah, like I think I would personally like really be in support of adding way more housing here. I also would be in support if you wanted to get rid of that parking lot, underground parking lot. I'd be in support of that as well if that helps bring some more housing to this and bring it to more and more people to the neighborhood. So thank you for doing this. I think this is fantastic, and I love that you're doing this. Thank you.
Well,
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Agreed. All right, John. John, you're on mute.
Chris and Megan, interesting idea. Chris always has interesting ideas for properties in the neighborhood. Just a nerdy question. Why is your measuring point on Connecticut Avenue as opposed to Ordway?
So that's a great question. I'm sorry if I didn't make that clear. So as part of the strategy here, we're looking at combining the lots, so the alley lot and the front lot. And that's because right now zoning has much lower alley lot density requirements. And so then we have to measure off Connecticut Avenue.
Okay, no, because it in quotes fronts, if it fronts anywhere on Ordway, and that would give you extra height if you measured off of that. But if you are combining with Connecticut Avenue, then you're stuck with that, I'm afraid. Thank you.
Thanks.
Great. Rick?
Sure. Yeah, thanks for leaving this sketch up. I realize this is early days and this is an interesting concept. Do you contemplate that sort of the front entrance of the building, as it were, would be as you're approaching it from Ordway Street down that most easterly alleyway, and then drop off traffic would turn left then in front of the building, or would the entrance be more from the alley to the north?
So that is a great question. I will say that what we're planning for, at least in this scenario of in our current zoning scheme, only building 8 to 9 units based upon the current zoning, we're looking at all units having exterior entrances. So just depending where the stairs are or their unit entrances are off of the perimeter of the building. So it's hard to say what's the front entrance because every unit's going to have slightly different entrance. But from the garage perspective, we envisioned kind of off of this alley into the building, kind of right behind 3500 Connecticut.
Okay, and then the other question is, if the portion of the sort of south alley that is parallel to Connecticut is closed, where the building starts into the north, so how will the various businesses, I guess includes the firehouse, it includes at least one restaurant and so forth, how do their needs sort of get serviced there?
So we're looking at along, so in this aerial here, we're looking at this little leg of the building, putting in the retail, the business trash right here. So it's basically actually the trash truck would come down here, be able to pull out the trash cans and then empty them.
Okay, thanks.
One thing that I would note is with Commissioner Gordon's help, we did meet with the 3 neighbors along Ordway and had very productive discussions about trash management, which is always a problem here. So these designs contemplate interior trash storage for the retail tenants to avoid some of the rodent and illegal dumping issues that we currently have. But Commissioner Nash, I believe as it relates to servicing the firehouse, because the alley on the north side connects from Ordway all the way through to Porter, that would not be impaired.
Got it, thanks.
Great. All right. Well, thank you again for, presenting this concept and ideas, and feel free to reach out to, Commissioner Gordon, obviously, or any one of us, any other time you want our, feedback, opinions. Hopefully this is helpful. I love this idea because I prefer people over parking lots, and especially in this space because it seems to be very desolate. So thank you again. We've unfortunately reached our 7:30 stopping point and have to start our residential historic preservation housing meeting now. So
well, thank you for your time. Really appreciate the feedback.
Appreciate it. Thank you. And everybody enjoy your evening. And I'll see some of you in a second.